tonight to talk about hope and remedy. I'm going to introduce Anthony Wall. He's the founder and president of Noesis, a humanitarian nonprofit seeking global presence to unite all humans on Earth under the banner of species self-preservation. Very, very, very important nonprofit organization. An increasingly helpless human race is unsustainable, swept along by the churn of perpetual conflict, with no understanding of ancient compulsions that drive this deadly constant. I think the evolutionary triggers of all human behavior must be understood. Only with these basics will humans get a glimpse of a sustainable future for the first time. And so we're going to dive into this tonight, and obviously this is going to be very fascinating. It's a very fascinating topic. We have Jack Malley here. I'm going to give a quick introduction to Jack. Jack is a board member of Noesis. He also is founder and creative director of M3 Video Agency in New York City. He also led marketing and creative departments at Time Warner and Saatchi. So we're going to jump in. Jack will be our co-host and MC tonight, leading the discussion with Tony. And everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. You are in for a treat tonight. Such great information.
All right, Cindy, thanks. Thanks for that intro. Yes, this is interesting stuff. In fact, Noesis, as far as I can tell, is the only group that approaches the issue of perpetual conflict and human sustainability with such unique thinking and clear solutions. And the solutions and remedies, as we say, is what we're going to get into today. In the past seminars, this is our third, I believe, we spoke about the human injury, which you could talk for hours on it, but as a one sentence description, it's a devastating event that some 10,000 years ago, which we believe torqued the human species down a dark alley from which we have yet to recover. Much of the turmoil through history and now playing out on the world stage can be traced directly to the human injury. We talked a lot about that. The human injury is a critical historical event that forms the foundation of the Noesis platform. Noesis is a fusion really of anthropology, math, and philosophy, all under one banner. And Tony wants to talk a little bit about the logo itself and the meaning behind the logo and how it was developed.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. That'll come up soon, I'm sure. But hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. It's very important to me, and I'm very humbled by the ability to be able to do this the rest of my life. Anyway, Noesis. Everybody asks what Noesis means, but I decided tonight to put the whole logo up there to determine, so everybody can determine what we're doing here, because the visual of the logo really explains it. Noesis is a Greek word that means the highest level of intellect achievable by the human mind. It's a Greek word. If we apply all of our gifts, we would arrive at a state of Noesis. But there's more going on in the logo, so I want to spend a minute here. When I started Noesis 4 years ago, I wanted a logo that, if it could talk, would say, humanity on the clock. And this, of course, you see some DNA strand here, and you see it separated by a timepiece. There it is, humanity on the clock. Now, what I didn't want to do was make people think of anything urgent, like, oh my gosh, we're in a race with our own demise. No, that's a fire drill. That's not what we do here. Humanity on the clock. That's no stretch. When we say that and no one flinches, that's why we think what we're doing, it's time for us now. It's time for us to exist. So I wanted to explain the logo and what it's explaining, and the idea that nobody out there will really think it a stretch anymore that the mortality of our species is vaguely visible to all of us, and that's reasonable. So there it is. Take it away, Jack. Thanks.
The mortality of our species. Yeah, wow. So, heavy stuff. We touched on it the last couple of webinars, got in deep, and today we kind of flipped the script a little bit and wanted to go after hope and remedy. So, now with this theme being hope and remedy, I look forward to Tony. I know him well, and I think he'll paint some sunny pictures of how the human species is evolving, improving, and at any time now, we'll right this listing ship. Tony, he's like the Bob Ross of human sustainability. The Richard Simmons of the dance of the species, just rose petals and cool breezes await. Ain't that right, Tony?
I would say no, that is not right. so folks,
it took a long time to write that. Come on.
Yeah, I know they need me to do that, but folks, let me tell you something. You don't want me to do that, and I'm not here to do that. The minute I start soft pedaling these issues is the minute you head for the door and you get to. Okay, where am I going here? Well, let me tell you something that none of you ever actually thought of. I'm in the business of thinking of it. So it's no stretch that you didn't. And here it is. Evolving humans were every day, they were involved in strategies of survival all day, every day. We didn't worry about the good news. Like, it's a beautiful day out. We didn't talk about that. No, the bearer of bad news was who we went to determine our best way of survival. Turns out that bad news has tremendous value. It's central to survival. So how does it look today? Well, all of you are professionals, most of you. And every day you will, maybe you're sales people, maybe you'll have meetings. And in these meetings, what are you going to do? You're going to quantify the bad news. Okay, it's something you never thought about. Bad news is central to survival. So if you're a company, you need the bad news as to why your sales are falling. Now you can bring influence upon that. So just when everybody needs me to explain the hope and remedy, I come at you from a different angle and say, no, let me instead explain the value of bad news. It kept us alive. It made us able to get all over the globe in tight-knit, highly collaborative, cooperative groups. We rode along like a wheel, okay? Every member of the group had value, okay, value. That enabled us to get all over the world, which was no small task, was it? And so bad news was at the center of it all. We needed to know where predators were, or we couldn't survive. So I'm going to give bad news a big promotion here. We think it's a lowly corporal. No, it's a 5-star general. Without the bad news, we can't make plans for survival. So Noesis is here, first of all, to explain the bad news and to gift everyone here and hopefully in the world clarity, because clarity is our friend. Clarity is your friend in the meeting you'll have tomorrow to determine where things are going wrong. You will require clarity, and you will get it where you will feel as if you failed. Bad news is the bomb. Okay. You never thought of it like that way. So stay with me. Let's get the bad news out. And then we go to what the process of human recovery will look like. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, the process of human recovery. Interesting. So, the good news is bad news, if I'm getting that right. So just to mention too, the website noesisproject.com has a ton of content, video content, mostly a lot of posts, blogs as well. And there's an interesting series that I think Tony would want to talk about tonight here, and that is cliches that have sort of worked their way into the human language and have a deleterious effect that we're mostly unknown. It's unknown to us, but once it's pointed out, it suddenly, light bulb goes off and says, wow, so I'm kind of contributing to this too. So what are these cliches you reference on the website videos?
Well, yeah, thanks, Jack. First of all, people will say cliches. Why are we going to something so trivial like cliches? Well, you'll find out they're not. They're not. They're a good barometer of something we call normalization. The human species has normalized every single calamity around us, and there are so many, and they're now all in plain view. Our human dysfunction is in plain view, to the point where it no longer feels any way to hide itself. Why? Because we've normalized it. But it wasn't our fault, because normalization is the arrival of helplessness. It's too big. Where do we start? I mean, my God, it's too big. We need to sleep at night. We need to feed our children. We have jobs. We need to normalize what troubles us. But suddenly, the totality of normalization is cartoon-like. Again, we are a species in crisis, clearly. So when we're talking about cliches help us to find out the totality of the rationalizations we've compiled over the centuries. And there's so many of them. I'll give you a few examples. A mistake repeated is a choice. Let's start with that one. A mistake repeated is a choice. Unfortunately, that is it's incorrect. Here's why. We are beset, all human beings. When we're born, we have the weight of 200,000 prior generations before us. All of the impulses and compulsions that go along with that are baked into our DNA. So far from a blank slate when we're born, we have the weight of 200,000 past generations, baked into our DNA already. Blank slate? Hardly. So these compulsions and impulses we think we sent to the basement, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't get that memo, did they? These compulsions and impulses are not thinking mechanisms, are they? So they're making the rules for us. We just don't know it, but we need to know it. A mistake repeated is a choice? No. A mistake repeated is our only choice until we understand the totality of evolutionary influence upon modern behavior. We've labored under this rationalization. A mistake repeated is a choice. It would ask us to change to something better. But we never do we? That means that something's pressing down upon us, something that's viewable. A mistake repeated is our only choice until we know that. Another one is this. It is what it is. We've all heard this. Let's have a few laughs here. It is what it is. Well, no, it isn't. Actually, this is the language of surrender. Now, look, folks, I'm not trying to be too literal here. Let's keep it light. It is what it is. The language of surrender. We normalize yet another calamity, and it falls under this huge category known as it is what it is. So that's the language of surrender. So let's look at one last one. Pardon me, folks. Another one that's really interesting, of course, is we've all heard this. Hey, nothing personal. It's just business. Let's examine this one. We've all heard this one, and I'll be frank with you, folks. I'm not in the mood to hear it again. Here's why. It's mean-spirited. It is the language of controlled bullying in our workplace. It's nothing personal. Yeah, it's real personal. It hurts bad. It's real personal. Nothing personal. It's nonsense. It's just business. It's just business. Now, this cliche, this language of controlled bullying and again, surrender, it's just business, would ask us to look away while one of our own, we're pack animals, folks, while one of our own gets mistreated in an unspecified and maybe ruinous fashion. But no. Sustainable humanity will not look away when politely asked by this nonsense. It's just business. Here's why. I'm going to say something. I'm going to give you bad news, and nobody's going to have any trouble understanding it. We're a failed culture. Sorry, folks. Again, I don't bring any value here if I don't just put it right out to you. We're a failed culture. The idea that we're not sustainable is no stretch. There's no need to go into it. Everybody knows where they live that what I'm saying is reasonable. We're not running a fire drill here. So these cliches would be reworked. A sustainable humanity would not utter them anymore. And that's normalization. So go ahead from there, Jack.
Yeah, so go back to the first one. A mistake repeated is a choice. So how does free will work its way into this? Like, how do they live in the same space?
Thank you. This is where I get to allow people to think of it in different ways now and maybe forever, if I'm lucky. Free will. This goes back to one of my famous analogies. I try to keep them simple. It gets people in the same place. If a tornado passed by, a violent tornado, and it ripped apart our town, now this happens all the time, it's no stretch, we would go right into looking for survivors. And we would hear a voice under rubble, and we would strip away that rubble. We would all do this. We would get busy stripping away the rubble. The person under that rubble has no way to unburden themselves of the rubble. Now, what does this rubble mean in an analogy? Human beings are buried under the weight of 200,000 prior generations and the impulses and compulsions that were forged along the human journey on Earth. When the idea that we're making choices runs afoul of that fact alone, 200,000 generations exerting themselves on our present moment, we're not going to win that battle, folks. We need to understand the totality of this weight, which we now can, and we better get busy because we think we're making choices. Are we? I pose this question. If we fail and then we rise from the ashes of our failures and start something that begins to look like the old one and quickly, what choice are we making? We're not making any choices. The human mind chooses what's logical in its present moment. If we're starting something over and over and over that never worked, that means we're being steered by something from our past. That's no stretch. We need to understand this totality, and now we can. It's what we do. Ancient motivators of modern behavior. So that's putting a finer point on mistake repeated is our only choice. We're being pushed around by these things. They're making the rules.
Mm-hmm. So there's room for some free will and learning, but on the whole, we're driven by these hundreds of thousands of years of DNA training, in effect.
Yes. So I get to ask this respectfully. Do we have free will, or is that free will anchored, or we have kind of a ball and chain? We're carrying a ball and chain. Well, can come into question reasonably. We don't have free will. Sorry, I don't mean that. I mean that there can be a debate about whether free will is truly free.
Yeah, I got that. Another thing you said earlier too, which I like the phrase, the process of human recovery. Process of human recovery. And you mentioned some things, but in regards to that, what's actually doable?
Well, that's the right question, isn't it? Everybody out there, I'm speaking to you now. Thank you again for coming. If we're rolling out nonsense here, you're going to hit the door, and you get to. If we're going to tackle issues of human sustainability, we will do well not to be rolling out nonsense. This is serious stuff. We must lay out the vastness of what we're up against. Unfortunately, that comes back to the value of bad news. Bad news got it done for us when we were evolving. Let's let bad news get it done for us again while we're trying to find sustainability. Okay. So on the flyer, it said hope and remedy. I asked them to put that in big letters so I could come and unfortunately put a bomb on it. Let's have a few laughs. Put a bomb on it? No. Use the time to explain the value of bad news. Hey, we're a species in crisis. Fair enough. Again, a species in crisis. We are surrounded by models that have provably destroyed 70 major cultures before us in precise fashion. We think that where we are is the first time we've been here. No, it isn't. 70 past human cultures have come into existence and have perished under the same situations we see all around us, except for this time globally. We can't continue to do this. We simply can't. So the process of human recovery, well, this better be good. Let me just say that straight out. This better be good. This is where people stay or go. When I began to map this out, I didn't ask what are we going to do? I asked what's doable. Let me tell you what's something that's not doable. Anything fast, anything that would ask anybody to give up anything central to them in the present moment. This is what we do, folks. We're swept along by an inertia. The inertia is not our fault. We blame ourselves for what we do, but blame doesn't apply to us. We're swept along by an inertia. That inertia is well understood. It's what we do here. The minute the human beings crossed over to acquisitive behavior, self-interest and collaboration went to war that day. They repel one another. Okay.
And that's the essence of the human injury.
The essence of the human injury is that in our DNA, we are built to assist and to be assisted. We are built to help what is helpless. And we're so put upon that it all looks so wrong. Why? Because our deepest longings were discouraged, crowded out, and replaced by something that's not merely an inconvenience, folks. No, it's a direct insult to human DNA, the one that got us here. So now we know for the first time what happened to us, what it did to us, and what it will do to us unless we bring a process to bear upon it. Back to the process. You're going to watch this group, led by me, partner with the entire planet under the now forming banner of species self-preservation. We can't unite politically. We can't unite religiously. Oh my God, why would we ever attempt such a thing? Culturally, no, we're not ready, but we are ready for this. we're a species in crisis. That's no stretch. That is something under which we will and can unite, because humans have always historically united under a provable common enemy. Is the degradation of the human species not common enough? We think it is. So we're going to partner with every country. And then they're going to say, what's the give back? And our answer will be an interesting one. Nothing. Not for now. Why? What we do puts food on our table. We're not proud of it, but we didn't cause it. So this will take decades. Human recovery will take decades, and it can promise nothing, nothing. Who are we to promise anything? And there's a reason for that, by the way. Maybe we can talk about it right now, Jack. A lot of people think we're the extinction guys. No, no, no. We are the non-extinction guys. We are here to avoid what will happen and what need not. Extinction means the lights are out. What good are we? We're here to address commitment to extinction, folks. This sounds dark. No, it isn't. It's hopeful. As I speak, I'm going to ask Cindy or Monica to put up a chart called Commitment to Extinction, and I'm going to explain to you why we really exist here. And more than that, why we need to exist here. Why Noesis or a Noesis-like entity has to exist. So here we go. Unfortunately, that's the wrong one, but we tried hard. So
while we weren't paying attention, we've become extinct.
Yeah. And by the time that chart gets up, we'll already be extinct at this point.
It's gone. Yeah.
This is us having fun here, folks. It's what we do. Commitment to extinction. As they're queuing up this thing, which I know they're doing, let me explain something. Commitment to extinction is what stalks the human race. If it's extinction means the lights are out. Forget about it. There have been 5 billion extinctions on Earth. Extinction is the norm. Survival is the exception. So the idea that this couldn't happen to us is preposterous. And these 5 billion extinctions, my God, there's 5 billion separate sets of circumstances. We can't get to know them all. But we do know one thing about all of them. Every extinct species on this planet, every single one, thank you very much, committed to its demise long before the last of its kind disappeared forever. Here's an example of it. I want to walk you through this quickly. I'm going to talk about the woolly mammoth because everybody picks on the woolly mammoth. So why don't we? You know, the poor mammoth, this most noble of beasts, it was indigenous to North America. So this top line, oh, by the way, there are typos on this. Let me apologize for that. I take full responsibility. I got this together at the last moment, and the man that did it, he's terrific, but I didn't see those, so stay with me. We see these. On the top line, you've got the mammoth over here, 40,000 years ago. He's minding his own business, she. Now, 30,000 years ago, here's something you folks didn't know. The last leg of the human journey on Earth, evolutionary journey, took place only 30,000 years ago, when migrating humans crossed over from what is now northeast Russia to what is now Alaska. Only 30,000 years ago, and we'd been traveling for 240,000 years by then. We couldn't control fire, so when we did that, now we went north, crossed over, and we encountered the mammoth, which was indigenous to North America. We encountered the mammoth 30,000 years ago. The mammoth went extinct 10,000 years ago. So if you're seeing a 20-year period, a window, that's a lot of time. Mammoth went extinct 10,000 years ago, hunted into extinction by humankind, but it committed to its extinction the minute it laid eyes on a human being who began to hunt it. It couldn't keep up with its numbers, folks. It could only bear one calf. Its gestation period was almost 2 years. So human beings would hunt the mammoth into extinction. That happened 10,000 years ago. It committed 20,000 years before that. So commitment and extinction are two big things. Commitment is the point, mathematically, past which, no matter what we do, we cannot reverse the reality we've created. It means that we've clocked out. Okay, the mammoth clocked out 30,000 years ago. It went extinct 10,000 years ago. Let's get out of mankind here. Now, MANNKIND is on the left. And if you will let that awful fact go for a minute and try to have a laugh, it's obviously MANKIND. Mankind's been at it for 275,000 years. Now, let's go over to the right here. 10,000 years ago, folks, the following happened to us. We had gotten to all over the globe by then. There was nowhere else to go. What did we do? We organized ourselves into larger and larger and larger populations. That was aided by an agricultural awakening. We domesticated beasts of burden. Our fields of crops got bigger and bigger. But now we were stationary. Keep this in mind. Migratory became stationary. The ground zero for the human injury is a stationary culture. It defaults to acquisitive behavior quite logically. This is nobody's fault, folks. These are random historical events, and this is what happened to us, a random event. The defaults of acquisition would go on to destroy every single culture ever to exist, because lesser beings were created for the first time in a meritocracy. I'll explain that later. But let me tell you something right now that's a constant. If you show me a lesser being, it doesn't matter whether it's a country or a small group, a lesser being will collapse whatever system it's in. It will do so in a very, very precise fashion. It all looks the same. We are talking about a mathematical constant that destroys human cultures. We are acting clinically unnatural to migratory, collaborative, cooperative DNA. Not maybe. We invite any argument that would defeat this. We don't do theory. Okay. So we're acting in a clinically unnatural fashion relative to human DNA, pretty strong DNA too. Is this a being to scold, or is this a being to feel great empathy for? The idea that we don't know what we're doing in our DNA. Our DNA was insulted. A lesser being didn't even know what to do with that. Now, if you would also put up the other chart, the one that you put up before, it's the hierarchy of human value. I'm going to explain to you folks what collaborative, peaceful, loving beings became by a crossover event that can now be greatly understood. What you're looking at here is not a notable convenience to humanity. It's a deal killer unless we understand the dynamics of this I'm about to show you. This is called the hierarchy of human value. That's a really, really kind way to say financial meritocracy. Okay. meritocracy was introduced to the human experience for the first time. Let me put aside the word introduced and change it to intruded. This dynamic intruded upon the human experience. On the left there, you see infinity and zero. Well, that's a descending line from greater to lesser. Greater beings in a meritocracy, an acquisitive meritocracy, they would delude themselves that they were greater. And on the bottom here, you see lesser beings, and you see a washing machine effect here. Greater beings pressing down an illusion, the blue line, upon lesser beings pressing up their reaction. This is a constant churn. Lesser beings will spend their lives escaping a reality they don't recognize right in here. Greater, hey, listen, somebody's got to be greater in a meritocracy. Again, there's still blame here. A meritocracy is a mathematical thing. All of its points have to be taken up. So what is greater responds to the reaction of what is lesser, and it eventually arrives at brute force, which will hasten what it intends to control. I want to put this in the most simple of ways. We are failing mathematically, folks, not by our choices. All right. We have to understand what happened to us as opposed to this mess we are. Something happened to us. And there it is. We were commanded to acquire. We don't know how to, do we? And that's why we soar and we crash. We soar, we crash. And we have arrived at self-loathing over this, but no. Our DNA doesn't know how to manage excess. We're blaming a lung for breathing. Okay. So, I wanted to make sure that everybody understands something. This is a mathematical approach to the human condition. Blame out, judgment out. Why? Humans do not respond to either. They're threats. So that was a long time, Jack. I didn't mean to hijack that, but I think there was a lot to talk about, and that gave me a chance to do it.
Yeah, terrific. I did note, in the graphic you put up, a very nice, simple explanation for what happened to the mammoth, right? So he's going along, as you say, laid eyes on a human, and 20,000 years later was gone. The laying eyes on human was the commitment to extinction. Is there something that's pretty clear? I mean, I get that. Like, it's very clear.
I wanted to make it clear.
Like that in our own species commitment to extinction? Are we to look for some seminal event that we can say, uh-oh?
No. Oh, great question. Oh, this is a terrific question. No, that's why we really need to get busy. Not to prepare for extinction, no, to avoid what need not be. I'm going to say something again that I find to be very reasonable, and I very much am confident that everybody here will agree. Are we fence walking? Are we fence walking with our mortality? I think that it's reasonable to say yes, we are. Have we reached a point of commitment? I think it's reasonable to say that we have not. Okay, we have not. Or I'm not sitting here. Okay, I'm not sitting here. We need to get busy knowing what's knowable. I find that to be interesting. The powers of reason that we have are coming up on the outside like a horse race. When we need them, they beckon us, our powers of reason beckon us to reason. And what's in front of us? Data that was never before available. The stunning totality of the evolutionary timeline, we can see through our ancient ancestors' eyes for the first time. We can determine whether or not these things that have reinvented in the modern day are helping us. No, they're placing it as us at one another's throats, which is unnatural for us. Again, we're acting unnaturally. What acts unnaturally, folks, cannot persist in nature. Okay. I'm here to tell you that in a fatherly way, not in a warning way. We are here to help. So I enjoy excellent health. I intend to do this the rest of my life. I intend to go all over the world to unite all humans under a common enemy. The degradation of the human species stops now. Thank you.
Yeah. So you were talking about meritocracy, and I think you mentioned a phrase that maybe go into it a bit more. Unchecked meritocracy. You know, what does that mean? What can I take away from that concept?
Yeah, it's really important that I explain this. You know what? Look, because I live this stuff, I find myself assuming wrongly that people know what the heck I'm talking about. And that's, you know, I mean, so from time to time this comes up. Look, meritocracy. This won't be any stretch. I break this to you gently, but something we all know. Do we live in a democracy? Arguably, yes. What's truer, that we live in a democracy or a financial meritocracy? Let's hear ourselves say it. Okay, let's get it out there. We're a financial meritocracy. That means that lesser beings are guaranteed. The dynamic is not survivable, folks. I am very sorry. What we do cannot persist in nature, all right? I believe that to be reasonable. I can defend it vigorously. And I believe that what we do here is inarguable. Why? Because we don't do theory. We call our conclusions inarguable. Why? Because they spring only from what we can show to be true, and or from deductive reasoning on its worst day. This is a fusion of philosophy and mathematics, the mathematics of the human condition. How did we get to this awful place is knowable, and it wasn't anybody's fault. Self-loathing, out the door, out. Pack your bags and get out. We are a species in crisis, not by anything we chose. We're swept along by an inertia. We think we can change it. We can't. I would suggest we understand it, and now we can. We will not stumble into sustainability. No. Why would we ever leave it to stumbling into it? We're going to bring a process to bear upon what, and it's going to take decades of education. All human beings come from the same place. Partnering with the entire world makes sense. Why? Because all humans come from the same place. It's no longer in conjecture. So back to the process really quickly as we wrap up here. Can we get countries to partner with us under the banner of species self-preservation? Most certainly we can. We don't need to sell the humanity in crisis, do we? And what countries don't get on board with this, we keep dripping and we keep dripping and we keep dripping. Still, I get knocked down, I get up. I get knocked down, I get up. And we will get there. Humans are capable of greatness. Human flight was called impossible 10 days before humans took flight. So the idea that we can't get this done goes nowhere at Noesis, nowhere. We are here forever. We need to be in one form or another. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. So, you know, the Hope and Remedy title sounds, just from what you've been saying, is, you know, hope is alive, but only with clarity and understanding.
I couldn't.
And there are remedies. You talked about remedies, you know, for individuals like us, and even remedies for large organizations and government entities, which we are going to approach and work with. But for the audience, like, what are some of the actual remedies, you know, you can start today?
Okay.
What is?
Yeah, and I'm aware of the time factor here. 6:45. Folks, I'm going to tell you something else again. That's not going to be what you expected, and you're going to be glad of it. Okay. When I say that what can we do today? Notice, and you're going to say, wait a minute, notice? That's not enough. That's not enough of a call to action to me to take you seriously, Noesis and Tony. Notice? Well, let me do what I do famously, and that is make you see something you never did, and differently forever. Tomorrow, all of you. Today, all of you. Tomorrow, all of you. You're going to solve problems all day as a matter of survival. The first thing you're going to notice in all cases, the first thing that's going to happen in all cases is that you're going to notice the problem. I never saw a problem solved in my life that wasn't noticed first. So let me be clear. Noticing what's going on around us, seeing it differently forever. The idea that we're flawed, no, we're injured, we're helpless. Notice, see it differently forever, change nothing for now. Notice was a corporal a minute ago. It's now a 4-star general. Noticing is what keeps us alive and always has. Bad news kept us alive to get here. Let's use it now to get to a sustainable future. And let's try to forget that my phone is going off, which makes me very rude.
I'm going to jump in right here, Tony, because we're at 6:47 and the last 15 minutes or 13 or 12, we're going to be answering some questions.
I'm very happy to. Ask me anything you want.
Yeah, so we had a question that came in. How does the degradation of the human species stop now?
Notice.
Are you looking at me? Do you know something that do you know something that you didn't know before we started this? Is there anything that impacted you as in I never thought of that? That's how it starts now. It starts, in other words, we need to arrest and reverse human degradation. It's not going to, by me going on and on talking, when we execute our mission, I'm not going to be talking. I'm going to be on a plane. I'm going to be on a plane partnering with countries under the idea that we are a species in crisis. We must arrest our crisis while asking humankind to give up nothing else in the present time. These things put food on our table. These things that are killing us, perpetual conflict, it gets us paid. Is that our fault? We don't change it. If we are not rolling out something that's going to take 100 years, we're not worth a darn. Okay. How does it stop? If you're looking at me, that's how it starts. One conversation at a time. And we go from here. It's going to take a long time. And when it doesn't, that's when I have no value. Thanks. I see something from Monica here. Thank you very much, Monica. I think that's the Monica we all know and love here. Explain the gift of clarity. Well, look, this goes back to what I said earlier on. Clarity keeps us alive. Like on the way home tonight, close your eyes while driving for 10 seconds. You will lose clarity quickly and there will be an immediate catastrophe. Okay, I'm not trying to be a wise guy. We need to understand the concerns before we bring a process to bear upon them. I used the example of a sales meeting. Why? Because it's so universal. We get in a sales meeting, and have you ever heard this conversations? Hey, sales are way down. Don't worry about it. It'll fix itself. Don't worry. You ever heard that conversation? I never had. We get busy quantifying. What's going on here? How did this happen? The analogy will be called simplistic. I call it precise. We have clarity. Clarity is our friend. Clarity tells us what we're up against. Now we have the best chance to gift ourselves a sustainable future, where now we have no other choice but to devolve back into things we always did, why we never understood them. But now we do. Thank you. Anybody else got a
We
question
have a
out there?
question here. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't judge a book by its cover. It seems evolution and our past could debunk this one. I'm not sure if that's a question, but
I don't understand it. And I say that with all respect. I don't understand the what I'm being asked.
okay, I think maybe that was just a comment, but we have another question here. What does the human recovery look like?
Listen, I just started it, but let me go right back into it. Learning. We are educators here. We're educators. We don't blame, we don't judge. Blame is a threat to the human mind. We see all around us are economic models of blame and blame rejection. They keep us in perpetual conflict. We cannot unhinge ourselves. We can't unhitch the wagon of perpetual conflict, or we won't get paid. That's a fine mess, folks. It's not survivable what we do. We must get busy learning how this happened to us. We have to get away from self-loathing and over to empathy, where we view our species with great empathy, like scolding a lost species. Why would we scold a lost child? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. A child does not understand its coordinates. It's lost. Who among us would not drop what we're doing to make sure that child got to safety? The human species is in trouble. We're frightened. All right, we are frightened, enacting every bit of it. Fear chooses safety in numbers. Have we ever seen us versus them bigger than it is today? We call this political minutia. No. Fear chooses safety in numbers. We're seeing existential fear building up and exerting itself through political minutia. We're beating one another about the head over things that don't add up to much. That makes no sense. Or does it? We're fearful. We don't know how we got here or how we're leaving. And we're watching that crumble. Fear makes sense. I view that being with great empathy. That being views itself with self-loathing. It's not working for us. We don't deserve it. Anything else?
I know in the past you've explained how, we've been collaborative human beings, and how important, how powerful that is and how natural that is to our DNA. So maybe you could just speak to that a little more.
All right. It not only is it a great thing, but listen up, folks, whoever's here. Thank you again for being here. Let me do what I need to do and make this clear. An event occurred, and a very random event in the evolutionary timeline of our species occurred. We ran out of places to migrate to. We got the job done of getting everywhere all over the world. By that time, we had this great, this need to assist and be assisted baked into our DNA. We didn't have anywhere to go. We had an agricultural awakening. We got bigger, we got bigger populations. We got a little lazier. We defaulted to acquisitive behavior. Stationary cultures must. They must. We grow and we need to be, capitalism falls in for us. The problem is that capitalism or any meritocracy will create lesser beings. a lesser being was created for the first time in human history. What was equal, what rolled along to keep us alive, became a lesser being, and that blew it up, folks. How badly? 70 stationary human cultures have come into existence and have perished, not by the situations in our history books. No, history book wouldn't sell anything if it was titled what it is. Same play, different actors. Our situations sell, but our situations do not. They keep us away from what's going on. Same play, different actors. It's a constant, ignited by a crossover event. It's deadly. And it's deadly now. We are a failed culture. We're not succeeding. And now we know why, as opposed to, well, here we are again. No, we know why forensically. Okay. Where can people learn about what we do? Well, go to noesisproject.com. We've been busy people, busy people. The totality of everything I've created there is in video form. Who is Noesis? Why we need to exist? How did this happen to us? Everything you're hearing right now is on the website. Let me make it clear. I intend to unite every country, every human being, all 8 billion of us, under the banner of species self-preservation, while asking everyone else to give up nothing. We need to make the playground upon which we play safer to play upon. Okay, that's first. That's going to take a lot of resources. We are a 501c3. Donate to what we do and then watch what we do. If we're not doing it, then we lose you. This is a very, again, some people say this can't be done. Really? Watch me.
Yeah, I would just jump in here, Tony, that, there's a lot to digest here tonight on the webinar, but you have so many great videos. And I know that Jack wanted to speak to the whole media side of things and how you're creating content, educational content, so that people can understand so many layers of Noesis.
Let
me speak to that.
Yes, and Jack could too, but I think Jack will, I'm going to let Jack chime in on this. Look, PBR is a media group. Fox News, media group. These are media groups that we create. We would like to create a media group fashioned only with this, only that unites as a vehicle to get the information out that that pertains to all human beings. All human beings, we all come from the same place. If somebody doesn't agree with this, like we didn't evolve, we accept that interpretation without reservation of any kind. It's okay. It's okay. All interpretations are fine, but our central assumptions here, we're problem solvers. We have to have central assumptions. We're mathematicians. We evolved on Earth. We got here by a process. We need to unwind the process. A media channel is a good way for people who have investing in their mind to get their arms around what we're trying to do and get on board with it. Me, Tony Wall, running around on stage? No. A media company can be a conduit for this information. Factual, fact-based. Jack, you want to?
No, right on. That's the right answer. I mean, for me, I mentioned creating a media company as a way for people to, easily understand, oh, this is what you're going to do. These are the resources you need to create a media company. Plus, it was easy for me because that's all I've ever done is work within big media companies, whether it's Time Inc. or Time Warner versions, AOL, Saatchi, my own. I just recognize your momentum is simply you're building a media company is what you're doing. And that's what's going to move this message around the planet.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me wrap up here with this. This is an actionable group. Go and see what we've done and give us this. We have been busy putting up what is intelligent and what has logical flow. Nonsense isn't going to get it done for human sustainability. I was asked to write a book so long ago. I chose instead to make this into an actionable vehicle. Now the book will fall in the fall. I needed a vehicle of action in place with the idea that, with the mission of what I just explained. First things first, consensus among all humans. We're in crisis. We can work together under that common enemy while asking everyone else to give up nothing. No capitulation, it's just not going to work. There it is. That's what we're doing here, is sweeping. It has to be. We are in deep, folks. I'm sorry. I'm not your man if you want this soft pedaled. I am about clarity and process. We need to get busy, and that's what we're here to do. We need help. We need help. And take us to task. Make us earn it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Those are great closing words. I would also just close by saying, or maybe you could have a closing comment about being, just collaborative human beings, and that the mission of Noesis is non-political, non-denominational, as an educational vehical, so that people are educated.
Yeah, sorry, Cindy. I think that's what you wanted me to do first. This is a conjecture. We have collaboration wound around our bones. It wound around our bones. I want to make this clear. It's not just a incidental thing. No, we're born to assist and to be assisted. There is no conjecture here. All right. We are acting unnaturally relative to that. Okay. It has never worked. Fact. It's not working now. Fact. The nature of a constant. It won't work. We need something else, or we're going to choose ourselves for our own demise by our inaction. All right. So what got us here, collaboration, has got to come back. We need to create necessary beings, never lesser beings. That's what got us here. That's what will get us into a future that's not attainable for us right now. I explained to future thinkers, and I risk making them cross with me. Future thinkers, what future were you referring to? Human beings under these models never had a future. We're building the bridge to that future in which we play in our minds, but that's not attainable. We will understand what happened to us. We will think our way into survivability, into sustainability, never stumble. If we're leaving it to stumble, please. So we're going to get back to what we are, and that is 8 billion necessary beings. Pollyanna, maybe, but nevertheless, that's what my intent is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I would encourage everyone to check out noesisproject.com, subscribe to the newsletter, follow the journey, and as Tony said, the mission is, to unite under human sustainability and preservation. So thank you again for joining, everyone. I want to be respectful of everyone's time at 7:04, so have a wonderful evening, and we will keep in touch with the next one.
Yeah, have a cocktail on me, because I know I need a beer here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much, everybody. It's very important to me. I really appreciate it. Thanks.